Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good. If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual SOR Fan Party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldine Orozco, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the SOR Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio. Now, don't tune your TV. You don't need to tune your TV, do anything in your TV. I am your host for the night, Mr. Rob G. Dave Scott just got back home, feeling not so well. So I said, you know what? I'll go ahead and take the reins for you tonight, big guy. Take the night off. And we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. While you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and that Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot, and oh so much more. Yes, in the building, stepping in for Dave Scott. Once again, big shoes to fill. Big guy went out of town, man, ran into a lot of stuff. If you guys know what's been going on down south with the weather, Dave ran right into that. Had flights delayed all over the place. Did make his speech on Saturday, as we talked about yesterday, so that went well. And then he was rerouted on the way home. Luckily, right through Vegas, though, he got to hit the slots, and he sent over some pics of a couple big wins. So congratulations, Dave Scott, for that. But he is now back home, finally, resting up, getting ready for tomorrow's show. So I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. And we have Lon Strickler in here tonight. So it's going to be an awesome conversation. First time meeting Lon Strickler. We do the Phantom and Monster stuff here on Spaced Out Radio on the after hours. We go over that. We go over those stories occasionally every other week. So always some good stuff there. Interested to get some input from Lon on some of the things that have been submitted lately. We'll be jumping into all that and a lot more tonight. Don't you go anywhere as we go ahead and jump in the chat and see who's up in here, who has arrived on time, who is tardy, who is not. Let's go back in the chat and check. I'm sure Race Fan may have sent it over. I'm not sure. Let me see, but I'll just take a look and see what we got here. Beginning of the chat, Race Fan saying, good evening, Dave. Surprise, surprise. It is not Dave tonight, at least. Thank you, Race Fan, for coming on in. You are the first wrench in. Kira, I am saying, hey, Dave, at Space Out Radio and all you amazing space travelers. So from here forward, Dave you substitute me. So that's how we'll do it. So anytime we say Dave, I'll just take the accolades. Appreciate you guys coming on in. Dogface, whoop, whoop. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks for coming on in tonight, Dogface. We do appreciate you. To Mothman saying, howdy, clan, with the horn emojis and the alien head emojis. Thanks for coming on in. We got Andrew in Gnomes Trucking Express, who apparently was out there with Dave. He said, Dave and I were lucky. 6 tornadoes hit Friday afternoon while Dave was stuck in Dallas, Texas due to weather. 1 tornado hit a train. 1 hit a semi-truck in Lincoln, my area. Hit around Lincoln, Nebraska. Yes, prayers to everybody out there who suffered adversely, man. It's it's Mother Nature. You can't stop it. You can't prevent it. You don't know when it's coming. And so heart goes out. I used to live in the South, and I know how it feels to not have a shelter and to be in the middle of a tornado warning. It is not a fun experience. So prayers goes out to all. And going down the list, thanks for coming in, Andrew. Gnomes Trucking, we do appreciate you. Who else do we got in the building here? We have Ann B. Ann B, thanks for coming on in tonight. We do appreciate you showing on up. We got Dino Bravo fan. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming on in. Dino Bravo fan. Glad you can show up tonight. We got Stephanie Blankenship saying, hey, guys, with the horn emojis. Hey, Stephanie Blankenship, thanks for coming on in tonight. Michael Morris saying, howdy, Dave. Howdy, right back to you, Michael Morris. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We are going to get it in on this Monday. Never here on a Monday. We're going to get it in on a Monday tonight. Let's see. Who is here? Woo, I am. Good evening, SOR. Good evening, right back to you. Woo, I am. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We got Supernova. Hello, Dave, my friend, and SOR family. Supernova, thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing up. Thanks for showing your love tonight. We got Lil Kilroy saying, was here. All right, was here. Hope you're back. Hope you come on back. Come on back in, Lil Kilroy. It's gonna be an awesome show tonight. Awesome show tonight. Thanks for showing up. Who else do we got here? We got Robert Lamoth Jr. saying, hi, Dave. Hi, Robert Lamoth Jr. Thanks for showing on up. Surprise, surprise. I'm filling his shoes tonight. Let's go down the list. Who else do we have? We got Karen in the Woo Train. Good evening, SOR. Looking forward to Rob's chat with Lon. Man, me too. Me too. First time. Should be awesome. Can't wait, Karen. Can't wait. Going down the list, who do we got? We got Rach Bill with the heart emojis, SOR heart emojis from the GB. All right. Great Britain? Fill me in. Fill me in. Thanks for coming on in, Rach Bill. Thanks for showing up. We got Cosmic Joe Chronicles coming on in. No words, just alien head emoji, spaceship emoji, Saturn emoji, and horns emoji. Thanks for coming on in, Cosmic Joe Chronicles. We do appreciate you showing on up. Down the list, we got Digger Dog. Digger Dog has stepped in the building saying, Tim, Lon, Andrew Brown, evening, all. Evening, right back to you, Digger Dog. Thanks for showing on up tonight. We do appreciate you coming through. We got W. Decker hitting it off early with the super chat. Do appreciate it. Said, hope you had a great trip, Dave. Did you bring us back a Bigfoot? W. Decker, I think that story will be held for tomorrow, but I can tell you Dave did get back safely. So all is well on that front, and I will allow him to fill you in with the details tomorrow. But thanks for coming on in, W. Decker. It's always fun when you come in, and we do love when you support the show, so appreciate you. Getting down this list, though, let's see. T-Bone is in the building. Hello, Mr. Rob G. One and all. Peace, one and all. Peace right back to you, T-Bone. That's the energy we need to bring in the building every single day. Positive energy going out there. Let's try to get to this truth. Let's move this needle. Let's have these conversations. That's what we're going to do tonight. Guaranteed. We are doing that tonight. Sasquatch Guy saying hi, guys. Do appreciate you coming on in, Sasquatch Guy. Thanks for your support. Who else do we got? We got Lars Jansen saying good morning, all. Horn emoji, heart emoji. Good morning, Lars Jansen. Thanks for your support. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Doug Shelby, the Doug Shelby, since we're filling in for Dave. The Doug Shelby, howdy all my SOR heads. Once again, I will certify the best thing about Mondays is SOR time. I get it. Yeah, Mondays, otherwise, yeah. Got to get a little SOR in your life, man, to get your week going and take you through the week, which we plan on doing tonight. So thanks for coming on in, Doug Shelby. Getting down the list. Doc from Wyoming saying, hey, Dave, Lon, and chat. Thumbs up emoji, horn emoji. Doc from Wyoming, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up tonight. Definitely. Thanks for coming by. Asteroid coming with all sorts of nationality foot emojis. We do appreciate you, Asteroid coming, because we are all one in this building. Thanks for coming in and letting us know that. We do appreciate it. Moving down the list, Millennium says, that was a nice pit stop on the way home, Dave. Right. Magically, pit stop in Las Vegas and gets to hit the slots, and he sent out little Taco Bell pictures and stuff, slurping on his little Taco Bell soda, like he was doing something big. Yeah, that's Dave. Always high siding. Let's see who else we got here. We got Susan Place saying hello, everyone. Good to see you tonight. Good to see you right back at you, Susan Place. Thanks for showing up tonight. Thanks for coming to the show. Thanks for being in our presence. We appreciate you. Rockin' Rory. Seems like a new name. Wavy hand emoji saying, hey, y'all. Hey, Rockin' Rory. If you are new to Spaced Out Radio, I got to do it. So Monday through Friday, this is normally Dave Scott, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. Then you can catch me on the weekend show, the After Hours show, which is Saturday, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11. And then Sunday, catch Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, 7 p.m. Pacific until 8. As soon as her show is over, move right on over here to the After Hour for the second night, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11. Then we do it all over again, starting on next Monday. 7 days a week. You can always find something right here on Spaced Out Radio. So I do appreciate you coming in. Welcome. And hope to see you back. Definitely. JoJo. Hi, everyone. Hey, JoJo. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate your support. Paranormal Pixie Laura stepped in saying, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Right back to you, Pixie. Thanks for coming on in. Latchkey Hustle saying, my people. Yes, definitely. It's a whole chat full of your people. Human beings just like you, coming to get the truth, coming to find out the answer to this perplexing puzzle that has been put before us by these ETs. So moving on down the list. Thanks for coming in, Latchkey Hustle. Bobo44 done milking. What does blank? Don't know, Bobo, but do appreciate you coming on in tonight. Thanks for joining us. Did I say Brown Dwarf? If I didn't, I'm saying it again. Brown Dwarf, salute. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up and showing your love. Wild Berry Candy Co. Good evening, loves. Good evening right back to you, Wild Berry Candy Co. Do appreciate you showing up. And we are getting close here. We got slow motion. Good evening, 5 a.m. from Ireland. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, definitely good morning, slow motion. Thanks for tuning in from Ireland, all the way on the other side of the globe. We appreciate your support. Thanks for showing up. W. David Page saying hi, all. Hi, W. David Page. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing your love today, tonight. Richard Elmore saying hi to Mothman. Thanks for coming in, Richard Elmore in the building. Aussie Ozzy saying hi, ho, let's go. We're about to do that, getting closer to it. Thanks for coming on in, Aussie Ozzy. And we got Operation Shutdown, Phantom and Monsters. Count me in. Exactly. We're going to be talking about it, going to the knowledge, the man with the knowledge on the subject, the man with the data. That's who we'll talk to tonight, Lon Strickler. You know, he's in here once a month, and just so happens I get to talk to him tonight. Awesome stuff. Moving down the list, we are getting close. Phineas Coat Hanger saying, yeah, Woo time. Okay, it is Woo time. We're about to get into it. Definitely heavy conversations tonight. Make sure to get your questions ready, too. I don't know if you're ready, but make sure you put them in caps so I can tag them and pose those questions to Lon in hour number 2. And as I say that, I'm looking for anybody else. Rough Rider 82. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. We are getting down to the bottom here. Millennium. Yep. Robbie G. Yeah, definitely filling in for Dave, doing the good deed of a good buddy, of a good pal, of a good teammate, of a good soldier. That would be me stepping on in, doing what I do. Aloha Dave 13. Buenas noches a todo de Mexico. Good evening to everyone from Mexico. I still have to translate the other part of the other message, Aloha Dave. So I'll be getting back to you shortly. Thanks for coming in. We got Gary Russin saying, hey, what's up? Hey, Gary Russin, thanks for coming on in. Escaped from Blue Jersey. What up? What up? Right back to you, Escape from Blue Jersey. Appreciate you. All right. Keeping it going, keeping it going. We are almost there. I wish they had an easier way to read these lists, really. Curate the messages, right? Me woken plethora. I know, huh? Maybe I'll throw some plethoras in there tonight on behalf of Dave Scott, right? I might throw a plethora or two in there. Let's see. Thanks for coming in, Me woken. Getting down the list. War Criminal 7. Thanks for coming on in. We are pretty much at the bottom, but can't stop to say what's up to Puck Elf. Hey, Jojo, Rob, Tim, Lord, Candy, Dave, T, Ward, basically everyone. Right back at you, Puck Elf. Thanks for coming in. Richard Halser, thanks for coming in. Good evening. Last night's show was great. Awesome. I really appreciate you letting us know that. Jim Goodall's always a treat. And he's my guy, man. I always enjoy talking to him, and it's always going to be awesome whenever he comes on the show. Thanks for showing your love, Richard Hauser. Van Gold stepped in. Hey, Rob. Hey, at Spaced Out Radio family. Hey, Van Gold. LVL, lovey love. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We are moving down Liz. It looks like it's probably pretty packed tonight, right? So that's good, right? Dysenterium. Hi, y'all. Listening while house cleaning on headphones. Great. Hopefully, we give you something really great to listen to tonight. Thanks for coming on in. Susan Alloway. Hey, everyone. Hey, right back to you. Susan Alloway, Dragonfly, Grand Rising, Rob G, and SOR chat. Dragonfly, thanks so much for showing your love tonight and coming on in. Melvin from Mars, hi to Mothman. Hey, Melvin, thanks for coming in. Kathy Evans saying hi. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for coming on in. Okay, we'll throw this in there, Darium. I had to just say Lon is the paranormal OG. Woo. Exactly. We'll be leaning on him for a lot of this knowledge that he has. So I can't wait. I have some questions and it should be awesome. Let's go down the list. Filthy sightings. That means Filthy might be in the back. Oh, wow. Who knows? We'll have to take a look. Thanks for coming on in. Filthy is supporting the show. I promise we're almost down here to the bottom. We got Eternity Eternal saying hi, Rob G. Hi, Eternity Eternal. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We got Jennifer SOR, Rob G, peace sign, cheesy emoji. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Appreciate you showing up. Pancho Zork, appreciate you coming on in. Thanks for showing up. We got, who else? Who else do we got? We are all pretty much there. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Jessica S., thanks so much for coming on in. Just talk faster. I know, huh? I'm talking fast as I can. Jeez. Robert Lamar Jr., where's Dave? Dave Scott is taking a break tonight, man. The guy just got home. He's been out for 5 days on the road, ripping and running, rerouted here, there, ran into storms, avoided this, avoided that. So now he's back at home resting, and he'll be back in tomorrow. He'll be back heading the Woo Train tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about that. But thank you for coming on in. Thanks for tuning in. Michael Fontaine, hello, everyone. Thanks for coming in. All right. We are all caught up. Thank you all for coming on in tonight. Do appreciate you showing up here at Spaced Out Radio. Like I said, filling in for Dave tonight. And tonight we have Lon Strickler. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him in because I've been waiting to talk to Lon for a really long time. And also I'm going to bring in the man known as the Dirty One, Dirty Filth. Let me bring both of these guys in. Lon and Filth. How are you guys doing today? You give me a thumbs up, Filth. Hey, there he is. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good, Lon. Whew, first time I get to meet you, and it's been set up this way. Last week, I got a chance to speak to Varla Ventura for the first time, which was awesome. Interviewed the UAP PD, and they were actually really awesome as well. Now I'm sitting here with Lon Strickler. I sat back and watched many shows between you and Dave, and I always wondered when I'd have my opportunity to speak, and tonight's that night. So what I would like to do, because I since I've come around Spaced Out Radio just as a fan before even coming on to hosting anything, I catch the stories that you curate, that you receive, but I've never heard where Lon Strickler started. Like, if you wouldn't mind doing that as a first time conversation, kind of giving us a background on where you started, what your first sighting, or how you kind of got into the position that you're in today.
Well, it all started when I was young, actually. I was, I always knew something was up with me. I knew there was something about me even when I was a young kid. But my first real experience was in Gettysburg, actually, because I live near Gettysburg now again, but I lived down in Baltimore for about 40 years. And I moved back up here in 2016. Well, anyway, when I was a kid, I used to spend a lot of time on the Gettysburg battlefield. And in fact, I used to get on my bike and go up 116, and I'd go to the battlefield, spend my weekends, or spend a Saturday afternoon there during summer vacation. Well, there's one day in particular, I was in the area around what they called the Valley of Death, which is in between Little Round Top, Devil's Den, and the wheat field. For those people who know Gettysburg, it's where the second day of action, most of it took place. So I'm on my bike, I'm going up the access road, and suddenly it's like a huge TV screen opened up in front of me. I mean, I was in the battle. I was hearing gunfire, smelling gunpowder, screaming, yelling, gunshots, the whole 9 yards. I mean, all my senses were open. I mean, I was smelling, hearing, seeing, and it was crazy. And it actually, it happened for like 30 seconds, and then it just suddenly closed up. And that's kind of when I knew that something was up. And and like I said, I wasn't raised in a haunted house or anything like that, but I knew something was up with me. And I'm an intuitive, and I'm a clairsentient, and I've been using my abilities all my life. And, this was back, I had that encounter back in 1967, actually. So, my whole time through high school and going into the early 70s, I was literally doing paranormal investigations back then as a kid. You know, it was kind of a word of mouth thing back then. No cell phones, no internet, none of that. And it was all word of mouth. And, you know, when I got out of high school, spent some time in college, and then I moved down to Baltimore. And I lived down there, and I lived in a little town called Sykesville for a while. And in 1981, I had a Bigfoot encounter while I was fishing on the South Branch of Patapsco River. And, you know, that kind of got my feet wet with the cryptids. I wasn't really, you know, I knew about Bigfoot and I knew about all that, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. You know, I was more into alien abductions and just hauntings at that point. But, you know, I wanted to know what I saw. I wanted some explanation. And luckily for me, I had found out after I had the encounter that there had been what they called the Sykesville monster incidents in the early 70s. And I was working with a guy who actually had a lot of family who were part of those sightings. And he actually introduced me to a lot of his family member, a lot of people who had the sightings, and I was lucky enough to get to interview a lot of them, even people who hadn't come forward previously. And that kind of got me going with the cryptids, and I haven't stopped since.
That is awesome. So when did you get into the authoring and what made you decide to begin to curate experiences from other people? Like, what was the purpose and what is your end goal for receiving all this data?
Well, I was you know, I was collecting accounts and stories and such all along. I mean, you know, back then I was writing it all down in a notebook and such. I did a lot of traveling. I was picking up accounts from people all over the country. And around the early 2000s, I was writing for a website doing stories for them, writing my investigations and such. And the guy who owned the website said to me, you know, you ought to start a blog, you know, write down your own stuff, you know, see what you can do. I had a couple people tell me the same thing. So in 2005, I started Phantoms and Monsters. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, if I didn't love doing it, I wouldn't do it. But, you know, it's been, now you're talking about almost going on my 19th year of doing that. As far as what I wanted to get out of it, you know, I pretty well got out of it what I wanted. I mean, it's, you know, it has, my knowledge has gained immensely because of it. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of good people help me out along the way. And, you know, it kind of blossomed into an investigative team. And of course, you know, with the channel and a few other things I got involved with, it was kind of a laid back thing. You know, I wasn't in it for the money or anything, and I'm still not in it for the money. It's just one of these things where I just really enjoy doing it. And now that I'm retired, this is what I do all the time.
That is awesome. One thing I hear you talk about a lot, and hopefully you can touch on, is I've heard you say, you know, in receiving some of these stories that you approach each story with a heavy dose of skepticism. And I think that's very important to say. And I think it would obviously within our community, you know, it's so easy to become biased and just believe things because, you know, you're inside of the circle. But, you know, I think one of the biggest skeptic remarks is that, you know, we don't approach things with skepticism. So if you wouldn't mind talking about your idea of skepticism and how you just don't let anything slide through.
Well, I tell you, when I get an account or somebody calls me or contacts me, I do let them tell me what happened. I tried to let them tell their story. I give them the benefit of the doubt until I do otherwise. Now, of course, everybody who does this is going to have a degree of skepticism. I mean, it's just part of the deal. And you've got to be aware of it. And when you've been doing this all this time I've been doing, the bullshit meter kind of goes off when you know it. And but I've been pretty lucky with that. I guess the one thing that I do, the mantra that I do keep with everything I get is, when somebody takes the time and trusts you enough to listen to their account, they're putting you as part of the story. You have just become part of their encounter because you're the one who's going to take it, document it, investigate it, and eventually present it. And sure, I'm going to look into it as deep as I can. But believe me, if it's something that I believe is absolutely legit, I'm going to go all out on it. And that has gotten me to where I am today.
Yeah, I think it's so healthy to put that message out there and just remind everybody that you should carry a dose of skepticism and not just believe something because you're being told that. And I like that because that prefaces some of the stories that you'll end up going into, and just want people to know that, hey, this isn't just a person receiving stories and putting them out. You're actually vetting these things. You're using your skepticism to kind of weed out the stuff that shouldn't be there, and kind of leaving the stuff that you can't answer is the stuff that comes out, which, by the way, we covered some of your stories on the weekend show. Usually we'll do 2 or 3, and they're always epic tales. I mean, the audience enjoys every time we sit here and read those. What are some of the ones that what would be one, if you had to pick one of the most compelling ones that kind of gives you nightmares, gives you the shivers when you think about it?
Well, nothing bothers me much anymore, to be honest with you. But this whole Chicago Mothman winged humanoid investigation from the very beginning has been quite unique, because you're talking about a cryptid flap or a series of episodes that are happening for the most part in an urban area, suburban area, which is just really out of the norm for cryptid activity. And when these sightings started to become known in 2011, it was 3 sightings early on. Then it kind of waned off. We weren't hearing much of anything. But then 2017 came in. Then it just went crazy. And we were lucky enough to be able to start getting contact with people, letting them know that we were doing this investigation. But of course, we were very, very cognizant of people that would come out just to get some notoriety. And, we made it a point to follow up with our investigators. One would get the report, then another one would follow up with it, and we'd compare notes and such. And, but it is all in all one of the best series of investigations I've ever been involved with. And I think it has some of the better stories and some of the better accounts and encounters involved with that. And we're far from the end of it. It continues on. When we think it's going to slow up, then it starts picking up again. And at this point right now, we just had, there was a sighting this morning, by the way, just west of Chicago. And we're looking at that. That sighting would be the 170th sighting that we've recorded that we think is legitimate.
In what sort of time span? 170
from 2011. A few of them before that. People who came forward later on, but I'm saying within a maybe a 25-year period of time.
Yeah, I've heard. I haven't truthfully, recently, within the last 8 months, a year, I've heard of the Mothman in Chicago because obviously Point Pleasant, that's where everyone knows Mothman, but I've heard
Mhm.
of a winged humanoid creature in Chicago, and I've heard a few different stories about that. So that's interesting. Do you think that those two things are related, Point Pleasant, and then are we looking at the same type of being?
Well, definitely looking at a winged humanoid, winged being of some type. The Point Pleasant Mothman is the description is somewhat different. Well, a lot different than what we've been getting in Chicago. That's more of a stout-like body, smaller body, or shorter body with insectoid type wings. Many times the butterfly wing, the moth wing. The red eyes that are inset on the top of the body. It's a more stout body. For the most part, what we're getting in Chicago is anywhere from 5.5 to 7 foot in height. Very emaciated, dark colored being. That's definitely humanoid in shape. It's got we've had a variety of the wing types, anywhere from insectoid to owl-like wings to bird-like wings, feathered, up until what we mostly get now are the membraned bat-like, gargoyle-like wings that go anywhere from 10 to 15 foot in total width. Sometimes the arms are attached to the wings, sometimes they're detached. Not all of them had the red eyes, but some of them do. There is a head, a smaller head that's not inset to the body. So they're all differences. This being has a few more supernatural aspects to it. It seems to be able to fly without use of its wings at many times. People have seen it suddenly appear or manifest, and the opposite to suddenly vanish, like it's going through an invisible doorway. It kind of runs the gamut. And we've been taking these sightings within a 250-mile radius to downtown Chicago. So we're getting sightings in Indiana, down in the southern part of Illinois, up into Wisconsin, as far north as Milwaukee. So it's more of a regional thing as opposed to just being Chicago. And look, I never gave it that name, Chicago Mothman. I was calling it the Chicago Phantom because I just didn't know what it was. But of course, the press got a hold of it, and they kind of compared it to the Point Pleasant Mothman. So that was what they were using as. They were calling it the Chicago Mothman. So in order to keep from confusing everybody, I went ahead and went along with that moniker. So yeah, but it continues on, and we'll just have to wait and see where this goes. We really don't know a whole lot about it. There are a few things that we do believe. Many of us do believe it's an interdimensional being of some type, which I think most cryptids are anyway. I think there are some indigenous beings, but say Bigfoot in some areas of the country or the world. But I think for the most part, cryptids are an interdimensional being. And maybe they do come from the same place as the Point Pleasant Mothman, but I think it does. There is a lot of supernatural aspect to it. I think these beings allow certain people to see them. There have been times where it's manifested in a crowd, a large crowd, and only a few people have seen it and reported it at one time. It's very fleeting, very fast. By the time people see it and try to get a camera out, try to get a photograph, it's gone. Like I said, it does have the red eyes, but we've had blue eyes, green eyes. We've had multicolor eyes. Sometimes they come in pairs. We've had a couple where there's been more than one. So, yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to this as compared to what happened at Point Pleasant. But, all in all, I it's still a winged humanoid of some type. And, we're still working on it and still trying to figure out what the hell this thing is.
Let me ask you this, Lon, because you mentioned one of those characteristics is that with this Chicago Mothman, that it is able to fly without using its wings, so almost like a levitation thing. So with that being said, I kind of want to divert over to first I'll use the example of the Peru aliens with the jetpack aliens, right? So everyone's looking at that like, oh, okay, these are potentially aliens. They have these jetpacks. Is it possible that we're looking at a cryptid there as well in Peru and not an alien, and maybe the same sort of thing like is being mentioned in Chicago? Or what do you think about that?
Anything's possible. I think there's a lot of connection to beings that people consider to be alien in nature, as opposed to with cryptid activity. I think there's a very fine line between all aspects of paranormal. But as far as this being in Chicago using some other means to fly, we just don't understand why it does have that ability. And the flying ability is pretty unbelievable, actually. The first thing we thought of when we started seeing these beings, were maybe it's somebody in a squirrel suit or something jumping off a building. Well, we've talked to experts about that, and they just absolutely flat and say, no, that definitely is not what's going on. But sometimes people will see it flap its wings, but not to the degree where it's giving them propulsion. These things just, whatever reason, have the ability to just move very quickly without using their wings for the most part.
One other comparison I wanted to make, because I've been trying to figure this out too. Peru aliens for me are still on the table until I don't think there's anything that has disproven those things yet. So when you mention this cryptid in Chicago, it also makes me think of the Peruvian the aliens and also the Jetpack Man. Are you familiar with Jetpack Man?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Jetpack Man is?
Oh, I think it's some clan. You talking about the one in L.A.?
Yeah, the one that keeps seeing at like 3,000.
I don't know. I think that was just some guy out there winging it out there with a jetpack. I mean, I don't think they've caught him yet. But that takes a lot of guts to be out there at LAX, out there flying around in restricted area. As far as the Peruvian aliens or whatever those things were, I don't discount the sightings. I've read the reports. I've read the witnesses' statements and such. I have posted about it when something else comes up. I just don't know if there's any real comparison with them as opposed to what's going on in Chicago or any other winged humanoid. They're not much different than a lot of the alien type sightings that we get, and especially down in South America. South America just seems to be a hot spot for a lot of this type of activity, and it seems to be a culture where, all in all, I mean, throughout South America, where it's a tabloid type news culture where they don't mind putting this stuff out and having it released and people questioning it and such. You're not going to get a lot of that in the United States, all in all. But of course, we do have it, and which is probably good because it keeps us going. The tabloid news in the United States is more concentrated on politics and celebrities as opposed to aliens and spacecraft. So, and they don't have a lot of that down there, or that they can report on that, but that's what they do. And that's why you hear a lot of these crazy stories. And, I'm not saying that they're all to discount any of them, actually. I have had winged humanoid sightings down in South America. I mean, it does run the gamut, but it's, I think it's a culture that's more accepting of that type of activity.
And I'm still, and those are still on my board too. They're just there until they get disproven. And I just say that because when you look at, I'm sure you've seen some of the film, and you mentioned South America, where they have really is where a lot of the footage comes from, where they show these like full-bodied beings or full-body entities kind of floating in the air. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just that I'm like, okay, well, if that's something, okay, now maybe that gives validity to what they said they saw in Peru. Okay, and if that's true, then maybe whatever this jetpack thing is, because they haven't proven it to be a human, is the thing that bugs me. And by now you would figure, with so many different close encounters right on the flight path, incoming flight path of all these jets, that something would have cracked down by now. FBI, all those guys getting involved, you figure something would have came out if it was a human. However, it could be someone that just keeps slipping under the radar, and I'll stay open to that. But I can't help but see these different entities that have this floating or hovering capability, and kind of think in the back of my mind, how can these things be related? So that's kind of just what I think about when it comes to that. And when you mention that, now you did also mention something about the season or the time of the year when things heat up or cool down. With so much data being compiled, I would think potentially you have an idea. You've gathered enough data to be able to kind of develop patterns or see patterns in the data that you have received. Does it seem like there's a certain time of year that things cool down? Like you look at other animals that go in the forest to hibernate for the winter, and it's every year. Do you see any of the patterns like that in any of these cryptid stories or tales?
All in all, no, actually. When you get, when you're investigating, say you're investigating a certain cryptid of some type, and the first thing you think of is, well, maybe when the weather gets cold, they'll back off, or they'll go wherever they're hidden, and they're. But all in all, that's just not it. I mean, many times we've had activity in the wintertime, as well as any time of the year. It just doesn't really seem to matter. And I think that kind of lends credence to the fact that these may be some type of interdimensional or some type of supernatural being. Maybe the weather just does not affect them to the degree it affects us or other animals on our Earth plane. So, I think I can't really pinpoint on most cryptids as to seasonal or times when they're more active than other times. Nighttime and daytime is probably the biggest delineation of any cryptid, because most of them are very active at night. But it just doesn't always work out like that. And of course, what we've been doing in our investigations, we do look into every aspect that we can, everything, all the evidence we get, and we try to put it or into a column where it's maybe something related to the phenomena. But I can't say that seasons are very much a part of that.
Interesting. And it takes someone who, and that's why I ask you, because I look at the data that you have collected and I've gone through on your website, the amount of data that's there. I compare that to someone like a Preston Dennett, who has compiled all this data on abductions and UFO sightings. And so, someone who has gathered that much data, there's different patterns that you may have observed. So without looking at the seasonal aspect, are there any patterns that you have recognized in cryptids? Some things that you could kind of put a period on at this point of your research?
Not really. I mean, it's like I said, sometimes when we do get a report, sometimes there are parts of it that just seem a little odd. But I can't really say that there's much correlation between times and seasons and other stuff. The activity, and this is one thing about cryptids that, I think as more people become more open-minded about the whole phenomena, even the Bigfoot and such, there's less amount of investigators and even enthusiasts in general who believe that it is simply a flesh and blood being, that there's something supernatural about these beings, all in all, Bigfoot, Dogman, winged humanoids, anything. there are a lot of aspects to it that just do not make any sense. You're not finding a lot of physical evidence. You see something very quickly, then it's gone. They show up at all times. There's just really nothing to kind of put it in one category that, you go out this time of the day or this time at night or this time of the year or the weather, certain weather, or if there's a lot of food for it here or food there, or people even look into possible migrations. There's just nothing really there to hang your hat on. And the only thing you can do is just take the evidence as it comes and do with it as you may. But I'd say in all, it just is nothing there that you can pigeonhole it.
So if you had to gauge out of all the cryptids, and we'll kind of go into the individual cryptids and then the stories in hour twos, we're close to break. But if you had to gauge, if you looked at the totality of the cryptids that you have received stories on and have investigated, what percentage of those are out to do harm, or is there a malevolent contact?
There have been accounts of possible malevolency, but for the most part, it's very rare. Of course, we've heard about Bigfoot possibly attacking certain people. Very rare indeed. The cryptid canines, occasionally we hear something about somebody will figure they'll do a bluff charge on them or try to intimidate them. And for the most part, a lot of them are very intimidating just by looking at them in size. But as far as wanting to harm humans, I just don't really see any intent there. I think if they were put into a position where that's all they could do, they may do that. But we're just not really seeing that. If I get, I can probably count on my two hands how many accounts that really seem like the witnesses were in absolute danger. And many times when people do see these things, their first reaction is that they're going to be in danger just because of the way the thing looks and the way it acts. Maybe it's just trying to ward somebody off by, bluff charging or taking a step or two forward or snarling or growling as simply as a defensive mechanism. But all in all, I just do not see these beings. And I'm talking a large swath of cryptids that really feel like they need to hurt people.
And so looking at this, so they always say, the dead man tells no tales. So you assume that with the entries that you receive, these are from people who are able to report their sightings and their encounters. So they're okay because they were able to tell the story after the fact. Do you think
I've never had a dead man tell me anything?
Do you think there's a percentage maybe that, and this kind of goes into missing 411, right? Do you think that cryptids are in any way responsible for any of the missing 411?
I think it's possible. I do think it's possible. I don't think it's majority, but I think it's possible.
Who do you think would be responsible if you had to guess?
Well, if you're talking about cryptids, I would the first thing I would say would be Bigfoot. I have talked to a lot of search and rescue people over the years, and especially like with kids who seem to be snatched suddenly, and then they show up someplace miles away that the kid didn't get there on their own, or they're up on some mountain or something. And they talk about the hairy man or something else who was feeding them and watching them and doing this and that. I think it's a possibility that maybe some of these accounts maybe had some Bigfoot relation to them as far as and why they do it. We don't know that. But, there's a lot of things out there we just don't know. We may think we know everything, but believe me, we just really don't. There's nothing moot about cryptids. There's always going to be something else that pops up eventually. And that's what keeps us going on this. This is why we investigate what we do. It's just like with the, I guess the new thing within the past decade have been the pale crawlers, the crawling humanoids.
Right.
We have really no idea what that is, where they come from, why they show up the way they do, why all of a sudden we're getting all these reports as opposed to what we used to get before. Some people would say, well, it's creepypasta. It's some people making it up. Well, that may very well be, but there's just a lot of it out there. And there's just, some of the witnesses you talk to. And look, when you're talking to witnesses every day, you can tell those who are just trying to pull the wool over your eyes for the most part. And I just don't see that. And, and if I do have someone who will contact me, most of the time I'm either hanging up on them or I'm just not going to report it. And you do get that. But all in all, it just is not like that. But no, it's investigating cryptids is something that is going to continue on. Even the paranormal in general is going to continue on. And I don't see anything stopping at this point.
So let me ask you this before we go to break. Because when I look into, like, when I had my UFO sighting, it was 47 of them at one time, broad daylight, no doubt of what was going on. They all disappeared. So in that moment, I'm like, wow, okay, I do research. I find a bunch of other cases that show the exact same objects. Then it clicked in my mind that these things are actually being seen all the time, everywhere. When it comes to the cryptids, so after you've compiled so many reports of different cryptids, different encounters, has there ever been a point where you've just kicked back and were like, wow, these things are everywhere. Like these things are everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. When we started getting the reports in Chicago, we were getting reports of winged humanoids in other places as well. Even in groups, I mean, where we'd have a couple of sightings here, a couple of sightings there. It just wasn't always in the Chicago region. It was in other places as well. Was it because we were more focused on it? I don't think so. I think people were having legitimate sightings. They knew nothing about what people were seeing in Chicago. And in fact, the report I received today, the guy had no idea of anything to do with the Chicago Mothman, even though he lived just west of Chicago, and he had 2 previous sightings of this being before, which is very interesting because it goes to tell us that possibly that this being is actually in one area. So this is a case we're going to be looking deeply into. Unfortunately, it just happened today, and I don't have a whole lot of information about it. But I think it's going to be a profound case because, quite frankly, the witness is going to come forward and allow us to use his name. And he actually reported to me and one of my investigators on my team. So, stay tuned. It's going to be coming.
And I asked this question to all like Bigfoot hunters, cryptid hunters, because I have the same belief with aliens. Do you feel that at some point you will go to, or if you may have already done this, to kind of wave the flag and ring the alarm for the powers that be to kind of, for them to step up and be like, hey, we have citizens going out in these woods on camping trips, and this isn't even a thought in their mind, and they could come across something dangerous, and the public should be aware of things like that. Do you have a date or a goal to kind of bring that light to the world? Like, hey, you go into the woods, you see beware of bears, and you should see like beware of Sasquatch and something else that might be in there. Do you see a day where that happens?
No, I don't. I mean, I think the powers that be are pretty ambiguous about it, most of this stuff, even though they definitely know it's out there. And I'm just not talking about cryptids. I'm talking about aliens, UFOs, other things. All paranormal phenomena. I know they know because I have been confronted by several people from the alphabet agencies for years now. I've been doing this now for almost 50 years. So I've seen and heard a lot during that time period. They know. They got a good idea what's going on, but their whole deal is, it's nothing's going to be put out there unless they absolutely have to do it. They find a body. Well, okay, then there it is. If it gets out, if they don't hide it, or cover it up. If a craft or an alien shows up in a public place that is there to show itself, and then they can't do it. Anything to where they cannot hide it and they have to come forward is the only time it's going to be out in the open. We're getting spoon fed a lot of this stuff with the ATIP and all that other. I think there's a real reason behind that, just to keep people quiet. And it has to do with a lot of people that are involved with Congress and stuff as well. I'm pretty pessimistic about us, or disclosure, and us being told the truth. And look, if I find out something and I think I'm going to be okay with announcing it, sure, I'll do it.
That'd be
I
awesome.
don't have any issue with that. If they show up my door, they've done it 3 times before. I've been told to back off many times on investigations. If it's not going to get me in trouble, then I don't have a problem with it. But it just depends on the situation.
Well, let's hold that right there, Lon, because I want to talk Lon Strickler and alphabet agencies when we come back. So we'll take the pause of the calls, get into this first 5-minute break. Everybody, you kick back, get your questions ready for Lon Strickler. If you have them, put them in caps so I can go ahead and tag them. We can make sure to ask them on the back end of the next hour. Until then, we'll be right back. See you in a minute. Don't you like that? Don't you like that? Welcome back to Space Star Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our fantastic guests, Lon Strickler and Dirty Filth over there. Finished with this artwork. Okay, Loving It Filth. We see you over there. Appreciate you. Getting back into hour 2 here. We left the last hour off with Lon talking about alphabet agencies and being approached by them. I'd like to know more about that, Lon. What did they approach you with, and what was it in regards to? And did they follow you? What did they do to you?
Well, the first 2 had to do with UFO sightings that were reported to me. Then the first one was back in I guess the early 90s, around 92 or 93. I was living outside of Baltimore, and there was a sighting of a very quick sighting of a very huge saucer-shaped craft that several people saw hovering above a mall in Owings Mills, Maryland. And the witnesses were telling me that it appeared for like 10 seconds and just suddenly vanished. And the thing was huge. I mean, they said it was almost as large as the mall itself. I talked to 3 or 4 people that did come forward, and I wrote about it on my blog. Not my blog. I wrote about it on a website, another website. And I had a representative who didn't really identify themselves, but I do believe they were from the Air Force, who mentioned it to me and asked me about it and what people were saying. And I told him what I told him, and he had read what I written. And he basically told me, he said, well, we would appreciate you just not go any further with this, if this investigation, or do any more reporting until you either hear back from us or, well, that means right there that they don't want you doing it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I backed off of that. I had heard subsequent sightings in the area, but I don't know what that was all about. I really don't. Another account happened during a time when Butch Witkowski and I were started investigating the Todd Seas case up in Northumberland County, Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of people who are familiar with that case, where he was, and I think he was actually abducted, but Butch and I kind of looked into it very deeply. We did some, we were kind of turning over some stones that weren't supposed to be turned over. And I did get a visit. Now, Butch said he didn't get a visit, but I did get a visit. And I talked to that gentleman. I do believe who I talked to was NSA at the time, but I can't be certain of that because they did not give me any identification. But they didn't tell me to back off. They just wanted to know what I knew. And they knew about Butch, but I don't think they talked to Butch. They could have. If they did, Butch didn't tell me about it. And the last incident happened in 2014. I was involved with an investigation of a property in Franklin County, Pennsylvania, where the gentleman was saying that his property was being inundated by government agents. Now, I kind of took it with a grain of salt, but he was showing me various pictures that he was taking of surveillance and all this stuff, and he started showing me videos of inside his house where he thought they were breaking into his house, and I will say they were curious, very curious videos, and this guy was so upset, he was actually contacting his congressman about it. Well, that got the ball rolling because it came down to they found out, he was talking to the congressman. The congressman was upset about it. He didn't want to be contacted by this gentleman anymore. This guy was coming ruffling some feathers in D.C. by making these reports. And apparently he told them my name, that I was looking into it for him. So what happened was, and I've told this story a couple of times, there was one day I had to go I went to my doctor's office, and I was in the waiting room. Nurse came and got me full waiting room. It must have been 20 people in there. I went back to the examination room to wait for the doctor. About 5 minutes after I got there, she came back into the examination room and said, "Mr. Strickler, you're going to have to come out into the waiting room because there's two people out here who want to talk to you, and I can't let them come back here." I'm thinking, well, what the hell is this all about? So I said, okay. So I walked out there. I mean, there's a crowd of people. And here's this man and woman standing there in suits. The woman was dressed in a black skirt and a white top, and the guy was in a dark suit. And right there in front of everybody, they pulled out their badge and said, "Mr. Strickler, we're at the National Security Agency. We'd like to talk to you. We have a office secured across the hallway. If you could come along with us, we would appreciate it." Right there in front of everybody. So I followed them, and we went back into that office, and they point blank told me, "We just appreciate you not investigating this case. We don't think the guy has all his marbles," basically is what they told me. "And we'd like for you to back off. Your government would appreciate if you backed off." And I did. I didn't go any further with it. I had my suspicions about the guy, but the fact that I knew he mentioned to people to where they came out and disrupted my day. That was kind of the last card to fall. So yeah, so it's been 10 years since that. So I haven't had anybody come to my door since then, though it wouldn't surprise me. And I haven't really had any cases where it involved anything like that since then. So, if I do, well, then they come. But all in all, they normally try to tell you in a roundabout way that they'd like for you to back off.
Man, yeah, that's the meeting you don't want to ever get. How did that make you feel in that moment? Did you feel, more enthused to get to the truth, or did you feel like I might need to let this go for a little while?
Those cases in particular, I just didn't really think it was worth it. If it was something like what we're doing in Chicago or some other case, especially a cryptid case, I probably would not back off. It just depends on the situation. I can say that now, but I can't really say for sure what I would do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in those cases, in those situations, yeah, I mean, and I had talked to Butch about it, and Butch said, "Yeah, you just back off. Don't even get yourself in trouble because of somebody else like that. We do this, but we do it within reason. So it's not worth getting yourself put in jail."
Get their hooks in you. Yeah. So
yeah,
I would feel, if I had that meeting with them, I would feel threatened, especially when I'm curating a database of hundreds and thousands of cases. That's valuable, obviously. And I would be afraid that they may want to infiltrate that or delete the data. Or are you ever concerned about that, or I'm sure you've backed up things and things.
I do back up, but I did have a suspicious crash one time where everything just went blank. And, when I took the computer to get looked at, they just couldn't really find a reason as to why it just blanked out. It just blue screened everything. Everything was gone. So that happened. Well, that's happened since I moved up here. So that happened about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I go through a lot of computers anyway, but yeah, that one, that was pretty unusual because it was a new computer and there wasn't really any reason, and the tech people couldn't understand it. So that was the only time where I kind of believe they got in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we know they'll we know of other cases where they'll come in your house when you're gone and log in and do all sorts of things of that nature. So, what do you think and I agree with you. I think the government definitely knows about all the weird stuff that's going
Yeah.
on, and they either can't stop it or don't want to stop it for whatever reason. What do you think the outlook is on that? Like, do you think when you think about just citizens being susceptible to the whims of a cryptid or an encounter in the government knowing that these things are taking place, like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think, like, how do we change that? How do we, you know, I'm a person that doesn't feel like the government wants to disclose and ever will. So it's like I don't ever
Yeah.
think they will step forward and say, "Hey, there's cryptids running around. You guys should be careful." But like, there has to be some sort of end game for this, I would think. Have you even thought that far down the line
Sure,
on
I've
this?
thought about it. I just look at even agencies like here in Pennsylvania, for instance, the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We get reports of big cats, mountain lions all the time, and they always deny it. Officially, they deny that these creatures are around, but we know they're around. We've had people see them. We've had a couple photographs of them. I've been lucky enough, and Butch as well. Butch and I kind of befriended several game commission officers here in Pennsylvania who will come right out and tell you, yeah, unofficially, these things are out there, but officially, I can't acknowledge it. So, yeah, I've talked to several of these people over the years. So,
Yeah.
why the government does that, who knows? They have their reasons, but like I said before about disclosure, and I'm talking about disclosure about anything that's just not on the norm. They're going to deny it as long as they possibly can until they get to the point where they can't deny it any longer, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Then they got to start making excuses, or they're going to have to come clean. I don't think we're at that point yet, though. I believe we very well may be at some point. And just like I told David last time I was on, and I've been saying this since October. I think 2024 is going to be a busy year. I know our investigations have picked up locally, but there's a few other odd things that are coming out that just like this. And it started, I think, with this thing down in Miami where we really don't know what all that was down there. But there's a few other things that are going on too. I mean, even just smaller cases that we're working on that just seem to bunch up. So who knows? But I think 2024 overall is going to be a busy year.
I really feel that too. I've been saying that this whole time. I said,
yeah, there's a lot of people been saying that.
The year started off slow, and I expected that. I didn't expect anything at the first part of the year. I even said fourth, fifth month, which we're in, I anticipated would start to kick up now. Hopefully I'm proven right. But I would hate to waste a year with nothing happening here. And I just, you know what I mean? There's not a point where I would be comfortable. I've never had a cryptid encounter, and all the sorts of stories that I've read from the site, these seem like extremely terrifying encounters. I know you sent me a couple. They had to do with the moth, red-eyed winged humanoid. Okay, and this is the one you were talking about, manifest inside downtown Chicago building.
Yeah, this was an account I got beginning of April. The guy was telling me he was a downtown Chicago security guard back in the spring of 2001. And he was saying that on the specific night, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and he completed his usual rounds, and he actually settled into the monitor room to check footage and watch the monitors. He said after about an hour, he said he took a walk to start his next round. And, after sitting all night, it gets tiresome. And he said he needed to stretch his legs occasionally. So he said he would start on the ground floor, go up the stairwell, check all the crucial points, then check the entrances and exits and doors and offices and such, just make everything, just like any security guard would. Said he got back to the third floor after the elevator stopped, and said when the doors opened, no one was there. He noticed that the corridor lights were flickering, and he just felt a little creeped out. He said he got back into the elevator, went back to the ground floor. And when he reached the ground floor after the elevator door opened, he made his way right to the security room. And it said as soon as he sat down, he caught a fleeting glimpse of something unusual passing by one of the surveillance monitors. He said that it just happened right outside the security room. He said he could have sworn it had wings, but it went so quickly. So he said he got up, opened the door, peeked out the room. He said his stomach started churning. He said he could feel that something was aware that he was there. He said, don't ask me why. I just had that sense of nervousness. So he returned to the monitor room, and then he started to review the CCTV footage and pulled up the feed from the camera. And he said he was watching. He saw a familiar scene of the empty hallway. Then he observed a hazy figure materialize on the screen. He said it resembled a human form, but its edges shimmered and blurred, making it seem dreamlike. He said the figure floated down the hallway, cast no shadow, and seemed entirely devoid of substance. He said he continued to monitor the ghostly figure as its movements became more erratic. He said then it moved towards the front street door and began to gain a bit more of a defined form. He said he immediately got to his feet and rushed to the door. He said he walked into the hallway and quickly moved towards the front. And as he turned the corner, he saw a 6 to 7 foot tall winged being that looked human-like. He said it was very thin and dark in color. The wings were almost transparent as the light from the street could be seen through it. The wings were huge, he said, about 15 feet in total width, and unfurled. He said he was in shock, and he said, I accidentally dropped my flashlight on the floor, and the being turned and looked in his direction. He said, that's when I noticed its eyes illuminated with a bright orange-red color. Then, in a flash of blue light, it vanished. It was totally gone. He said he stood there for several minutes in total silence. He said he eventually walked back to the security room, but the rest of the shift was a blur. He said, I never mentioned the sighting to anyone, and I never wrote it in my report. Why? Because when I went back to watch the recording, there was nothing there. He said, I know that I didn't erase it because there was just no way he could have done that. There was no mechanism to allow him to do that. He said, I live alone, so there was no one at home I could relay this incident to. And about 2 weeks later, I quit my security job after finding another line of work. So anyway, more recently, now this was in 2001. He said, more recently, I was at a friend's home for dinner. He had other acquaintances there as well. And as he sat in the living room after dinner, a discussion started about the Chicago Mothman sightings. He said, I had never heard of the phenomena, but I was intrigued by what I heard. And, a lot of these witnesses we get do not know anything still about this phenomenon in Chicago. He said, that is when I decided to search online about the sightings, and that's how I found you or me. I don't know what I witnessed that night, but deep down, I believe it was related. I'm hesitant to reveal the location of my sightings because I don't want any trouble from my ex-employer. And at this point, I'm debating myself how much information I want to disclose. Well, I talked to the guy, and I eventually got him to tell me the intersection of where the building was located. It was at West Washington Street and North State Street, which is right downtown. So, but, we're going to keep everything else confidential about it. But, this encounter itself suggests that these winged humanoids may very well be supernatural, which is an aspect of this whole investigation that we believe is actually true. And I think most of the team does believe that as well. So, what this thing was, I don't know, but I do believe it was probably related.
Wow. So when these things, because when I usually hear stories of encounters, it's usually some short sort of interaction where they come in and then they disappear. Do you think, I know you wouldn't know what their purpose is for doing this, but do you think they have a purpose? Do you think that when they're doing this, they have a purpose and a mission that they're conducting? And do you think there's something to that at all?
I think they do in their own way. Is it something that we would understand? I don't know that. I think that there's a lot of these beings that are showing up at different points at different times. I think there have been many of them over the years, most likely from the same place of origin, but I do believe they're interdimensional. Um, I don't believe they show us what they really look like. Um, I think overall that they, like I said before, I think they only allow certain people to see them. Now, this instance, in this case, I think it was kind of an accidental thing. It got picked up on the monitor. He saw it was there, and he kind of shocked it after he dropped the flashlight, and he got a good look at it. But I don't think it was meant to be seen. But by the description of this being, I think it's related to what the other, to the other sightings that we have gotten over time. So, I think there was enough evidence for me to include it in the encounters reports. Yeah, it's just something else, something a little bit different about it. And, we get a lot of different sightings with a lot of different things, but, yeah, I think this is related.
And just like you say, it was like it almost seemed like it was accidental them coming in. So it
Yeah.
just makes me wonder if their purpose, when they do come in, if their purpose is to interact with humans, or would they still manifest themselves if humans weren't here at all?
Well,
Like would
that's
they?
what we don't know that. You know,
Yeah,
it's all conjecture at this point. Uh, I'll be quite honest with you, and some people do know this. We did try to make communication with these things. It was kind of futile. It kind of got out of hand. We did have one of our investigators make contact with it. We have several mediums and intuitives on our team. But unfortunately, after we thought we made contact and we're trying to actually get to the bottom of what was going on, a problem showed up, and it was an outside issue with somebody else trying to try to make contact with them, and they just totally shut down. And we haven't attempted to make any type of contact with them for the last 2.5 years.
wow. Was that using like remote viewing and things of that nature?
I don't think remote viewing would work in this case. I think they'd have to be more open to be able to do that. I think the only way we're going to make contact with these beings is by them being cooperative to do it. And, if we were going to do remote viewing, we'd have to find some way of getting into their world or to their realm. And I don't know of any, I just don't think we can do that at this point. I just don't think we're going to be able to do that. Of course, we have, I am a remote viewer. I've been involved with remote viewing for over a decade now. I was trained as a remote viewer by someone who used to work for MI6. And I've used it for a lot of my investigations over the years. I have a lot of clients who've given me testimonials about what I've done for them and such over the years. But I do use it, and but I don't think the parameters involved with contacting these beings, I just don't think we have the ability to do that as of yet. And quite frankly, whatever information I would get, I just don't think would be reliable.
Wow, that's awesome. I've never even heard of trying to contact cryptids. That is actually pretty awesome that you're looking into that. That's what I mean. That's why I love people that are doing something more than just, you're actually putting your data to use in your research and trying to figure out the puzzle, which is beautiful. I had a few questions I want to go ahead and bring up real quick. I had T-Bone asking, Lon, I've been looking into the Arkansas White River Monster. Have you heard of this cryptid?
I have heard of it. I haven't done any investigations. I know there are other people in the area that have done investigations with that being for years now. I just have not been involved with it at all. I've got so much other stuff going on. I just really haven't.
All right. And then I got Cosmic Joe Chronicles, who's asking, Lon, have you ever seen a prehistoric creature like a pterodactyl?
I have never seen it, but I have done a lot of pterosaur sighting reports over the years. There's a particular case that's pretty well known. The Van Meter visitor, Chad Lewis, wrote about it, and he documented it. And I believe that was a pterodactyl or a pterosaur type being. In fact, there's probably two of them. But we've had reports around the Chicago and the upper Midwest as well of these beings. They do tend to show up in a lot of different places. We've even had them here in Pennsylvania. So are they interdimensional time slips or something? I don't know. We don't know what they are. I think they very well could be cryptids. And look, I've had a lot of sighting reports that do suggest that they were flesh and blood. So at this point, though, I just do not know what to say about these pterodactyls or these pterosaurs.
All right, and let's see. We got Jim. Jim is asking, which aliens has Lon met?
I was abducted one time in 2015, right after my wife passed away. It was something that I was literally, and I'm going to go briefly through this. That whole year was kind of a blur. My wife got sick in January of 2015. And for whatever reason, and I was working with Butch back then as well, but I was seeing references to owls everywhere. I was hearing references to owls, seeing owls like I never seen them before, hearing them. That was going on for 8 or 9 months. And I had talked to several individuals about Mike Cleveland in particular. I talked to about that. And other individuals. And Rosemary Ellen Guiley, she knew about it. I talked to her many times about it. But anyway, I was also having alien encounters at home. I had 2 alien encounters at home with 3 tall grays. And that's the only thing I described them as. They were like 8 or 9 foot in height. They all looked pretty well the same, but they were grayish color, very thin, emaciated looking. But both times, and my wife was sleeping on her own in the bedroom because of her illness. And I was sleeping out in the living room, and these things showed up twice right by my chair. So I never communicated with them. I saw them quickly. I know they were there because the cat reacted to them. The dogs reacted to them. But after the night my wife passed away, I had come back, my son and I had come back from the ICU, and she was still alive at the time, but we came back home, and when I was living in an apartment, and out in front of the apartment was an oak tree, and as I got out of the car, I heard this owl hooting, and I had never seen an owl there before. And I mean, he was making a racket too. He was hooting his ass off and loud. And I went into the apartment, and I was sitting in the living room, and this owl he was so loud I could hear him. He kept hooting and hooting. Now this is November. And then I heard him hoot real loud one time. It was gone. And then my phone rang. And it was the hospital telling my wife had passed away. So about 2 weeks later, I was at home I was sleeping out in the living room yet because I hadn't cleaned up the bedroom or anything after she had passed. I had a lot of stuff in there I had to clear out and everything. So anyway, I was sitting in my chair and I fell asleep. I had to have fallen asleep because I don't remember it. All I know is I was in this craft or something in front of a huge screen, and these 3 tall grays were showing me the history of certain civilizations on Earth. They were trying to make their point across. And in fact, in my book, Alien Disclosure, I do write a bit about it, but I have talked about it as well. And in fact, I talked about it on my YouTube channel. But make a long story short, they were showing me in particular, they were showing me the Egyptian civilizations and a few things. They're trying to give me their interpretation of what had happened at the time, and that they were there and they were involved with certain aspects of what had happened in the history of Egypt and such. So, I watched that for a while, and then I woke up in my chair, and it was daytime. It was morning. And I had my shorts on. And that's all I had on, because I went to sleep with a shirt and a long pair of pants, but my underpants were the only thing I had on. Now, how that happened, I don't know. But the first thing I did was I called Butch. I told him about it. And but that after that happened, I never had an encounter with an owl since then. I didn't. But interestingly enough, a month later, my grandmother passed away. She was 103 years old. So she was living up here in Pennsylvania. So the day of her funeral, I came up here, and I was talking to my father, and he was telling me, he said, the damnedest thing happened to you, that your grandmother died. Now, she was in Gettysburg at a nursing home, so she wasn't there. But he said, I was up, and he didn't know anything about the owls with me. I never told him about it. So, and he lived in an apartment above. We had a store, and he had a apartment up there. He said, I heard this damn owl out there making all that racket that night. And I'd never seen an owl in all my 80 years of living here. But there was an owl that night. Wow. Yeah, that flipped me out. So,
wow.
Yeah, but that was my encounter with the aliens. It was kind of a long way around it, but that was my encounter with the aliens.
Well, I want to start with condolences, man, to you and yours. Thanks for sharing that with us. Really,
Sure.
There was a part of that you just talked about that when they took you aboard the ship and they showed you the past civilizations. Lon, I swear I thought about the same thing earlier today. It was either today or yesterday, where I'm sitting here just thinking, like, what if? Because I have a fear of I don't want to have that encounter that you mentioned. Grays in front of me, and I don't want that, even though it could happen any moment. So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, if they did take me, I wonder if they would be able to show like video recordings of civilizations at their heights, all of the ones that we think just disappeared, and then show us the reason why they disappeared. Yeah. I thought about that, and you just said the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's just mind blowing. I think that could be a thing. What if, because the thought process was, what if they showed, my vision was they showed the Egyptians at their height, and then whatever, maybe they reached the same point that we are reaching now in this enlightenment process, and maybe they couldn't take it. Maybe when they had their disclosure moment in their introduction to ETs, maybe they couldn't handle it, which is why the civilization fell. And it just made me think of now in the time that we're in, and it's like, are we set up for that same thing? If we get that disclosure, does our civilization crumble? Because ontological shock, there's a chance that A lot of people don't know how to handle this, and we kind of go back to the Stone Ages sort of thing. So is that the reset again, like what happened with Egypt? I thought of that yesterday, and I had to say that because you said exactly what I was thinking, which is crazy.
Well, that happens with me sometimes. I'm going to tell you that right now.
That is amazing. Word for word, pretty much, literally.
Well, what they showed me was in the 18th dynasty. It's the height of their power, and back then, it involved the period that it involved was during the reign of Amenhotep III, and where they told me that during Amenhotep III's reign, that a disc was seen, a UFO. They thought it was just a disc. And that they said that was the reason why Amenhotep IV, or Akhenaten, became a monotheist, because of that disc sighting. And they also told me, though I don't really see the timeline, that Amenhotep III's first son, Thutmose, who was supposedly said to have died before Akhenaten became the next in line, was actually Moses. Yeah, it was a whole involved thing. I mean, it was really interesting at the time, and I tried to make a lot of sense of it. As years have gone by, it kind of just doesn't follow the timeline. But then again, you're going by the timeline of what archaeologists are telling you and science and stuff.
Right.
And, is it something where you use that bit of faith from hearing something like that and try to disseminate that, hey, maybe the Exodus did happen during the 18th dynasty instead of what most people think it happened in the 19th dynasty with Ramses II or other things. But no, and look, as you can probably tell, I'm into Egyptology. I always have been. But I was, it's something I thought about, and I the reason why they showed it to me was maybe because of that. But yeah, yep. So yeah, I wrote about it in my book, and Alien Disclosure, Experiences Exposed Reality. It's actually in audiobook too, but it's my most popular book. But I talk about all the alien investigations, encounters, abductions, and such that people I have been blessed to be told about over the years, and some pretty big cases I've been involved with over the time.
Yeah, we'll have to have that conversation, because that's a whole conversation right there. So and that'd be interesting to have, because I'm that kind of person that jumps down those rabbit holes. So here, let's do this. Let's get no, we had a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Let me see. T-Bone asked, Lon, your opinion on the Nazca mummies.
I don't think there's really much to say. They seem to me to be sacrificial mummies. If you're talking about the ones that are so perfectly preserved in the Andes, it seems to me that their culture used these, especially the younger girls, as sacrificial. I don't think there was any alien involvement or anything. I think it was something to do with the culture. But it is a fascinating thing to see those mummies and the way they're preserved. It is absolutely fascinating.
Now, T-Bone, you're not talking about the Peru mummies, right? Let's be clear on that. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's you're talking about the elongated skulls with the Brian Forster's investigations over here in Peru. That's something different. The Nazca mummies are the ones that were up in the Andes.
Okay. All right. Want to make sure. Okay. All right. Let me see. We got Just Men asking, hey, Lon, why is the Ozark Bigfoot light beige in color? Bad camouflage?
I don't know. I think, my thoughts on Bigfoot are, I believe there are actually indigenous beings who live in certain areas that are indigenous, like the Pacific Northwest, some areas around the Gulf, maybe up in the Ozarks, which is a little further north, Florida in particular. But I think for the most part, these beings are interdimensional beings. Now, that being said, I think even those that are interdimensional and those that are indigenous, I think they have races. I think they have their own races. In other words, some are lighter in color, some look different, some are shorter, some are bigger. I think they're like us in a way where there's different races. So it does seem to be that those beings who are found in areas where it's a hotter climate and possibly are indigenous are of a lighter color sometimes, are shorter as opposed to what we find up in the Pacific Northwest. They seem to be a darker color, red, and they're much taller. And they show up in family groups a lot of times. I think everywhere else other than these places I mentioned, there's mostly singular beings that are seen for the most part, even though I don't doubt that there are multiples. But here in Pennsylvania in particular, it's very rare for us to have multiple sightings. It's usually just one scene.
We got Just Men again asking, why do grays come in threes? I had an experience, might have been a dream, and it was 3 too many.
Well, of course, mine was in threes. I have read reports where many times there have been 3. I don't know why. That's never been told to me. I just don't know the reason why for that. But it does overwhelmingly, they do come in threes many times, especially the grays, even in all sizes, are usually in threes. Other beings that show up are very rarely in threes. So I think the grays, those beings or the races are usually in threes, but it varies. I don't think there's anything specific as to why they do that, or that we know of anyway.
Yeah, could be simple as 1 to guide you, 2 to strap you down. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So we have Bear Begetter asking, what's your favorite story?
Oh God, I have so many of them. I can't really, and if we don't really have the time to do it. But I've had my own encounters too, and I just think we'll just have to save that for another time when I have time. But I have a lot of favorites. When you do it like I do all the time, you see something all the time. It's hard to have favorites, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. And like I said, I mean, yeah, having thousands of entries, and I'm sure some of them just blend with others. The most important thing that I'd be looking at, because I think gathering the data is step 1, and then sifting through the data, vetting it is part 2. Just you've already vetted, but to vet again a second time. And then you get a situation where now you start forming patterns and putting together structure on what this stuff could mean. So I would wonder, where this goes next. Like for me, if I'm a Bigfoot investigator, I want to see this to the end. I want to find out why they're here. I want to find out if they are interdimensional or not. And then I want to get to the goal line where it's like just alerting the public that these things are real and they are actually out here. Because I'll tell you what, there's no way I would go if I knew for sure, for certain, and I saw Bigfoot, I would think twice about going in the woods. This trip to Reno, I take Vegas, and if you've ever done this drive, Vegas to Reno, it's like 200-300 miles of just desert. And I take that drive at night where I'm the only car on the road. Now, if I know these things are out there and it's a for sure thing, it's stamped, I probably would think twice about taking the drive. And it's really about just having the information so you can make an educated choice on what you want to do with your life, right? And I think that's what the end goal should be for all this, because I don't think, an encounter with the dog man or encounter with the Sasquatch or encounter with the extraterrestrial, you can't determine how that interaction is going to go. It could go bad. You could not be brought back. There's 1,000 ways that could go. So being able to have the choice to say, okay, I want to put myself in that danger or not, I think we need to get there somehow, some way.
Yeah, I don't even like making the drive from LA to Vegas. So,
And it's dark. I mean, I've been on a 1-car road. I've parked in the middle of a road driving from Vegas to LA or Reno. It was middle of the day this time. I've done it multiple times. But I've been able to park my car literally in the middle of the road, not pull off to the edge or do any of that. Park right there where I stand, go look at these ruins, come back to my car, 20 minutes, 30 minutes past, no other cars have passed at all. So we're talking about being out by yourself. I would think twice about doing that if I knew these things were coming and taking people and doing all these. I mean, I think that way now because I do know that they're here. So I kind of, but I'm going to brave and I'm going to take this drive to Reno. I'm still going to do it because I just love driving, but I like a little bit of risk, but and it's a good story to tell if you get away, right? So
absolutely.
I think we have one more buzzer beater question. This one was from Just Men again, asking which aliens are most dangerous to humanity. Reptilians, I think they are left over from the flood since they seem to be involved in our history way back.
Yeah, I do. I think most people are wary of the reptilians as opposed to the other ones. And I do write a lot about the reptilians in my book, but because I've been involved with several cases where they've been the main character. I mean, and even though there were other alien beings, even humans, involved with these abduction scenarios, but I think people are much more wary of the reptilians for a lot of reasons, but for the most part, they just don't really seem to care. They're not out to make themselves to be your buddy, and they've got their agenda. So, I don't know. I'd say the reptilians. I mean, there's a lot of different things out there. Which is interesting. Abduction scenarios have changed so much or kind of evolved over time. It used to be that the early abductions, you say like Betty and Barney Hill, they'd be abducted. There'd be some experimentation. There'd be tissue taken, and it'd just be a few of the grays. Then it got to the point where you were getting more and more. Getting closer to the 80s and 90s, you were getting more and more abduction scenarios where it was mostly the grays, but you had other ones involved, other types of beings involved, and they were doing experimentations, but they were also taking sperm and taking eggs and other reproductive, and they were doing a lot of different things. More so now in the last 20, maybe 15, 20 years, it seems that the makeup of these abduction teams, like I like to call them, it seems to be a varied amount of beings. I mean, you'd have your grays, you'd have humans, you'd have other ambiguous types of beings. You have the reptilians, then you'd have the overlord, which was usually an evolved reptilian that looked more like an insectoid of some type. And I do believe the insectoids are metamorphosized reptilians. I mean, that's my personal opinion. But I think when they get to a hierarchy, they do metamorphosize into a higher being. But, you do get a lot of different types of these things being described by experiencers now. Has their agenda overall changed? I don't think so. But I think, I think people that are abducted for one specific reason, and I think the main reason is because these beings that people are seeing or encountering are evolved humans or evolved humanoids. I think the human species is a universal species across many universes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we do see are evolved humans. And in fact, that we see so many of them is because they're either traveling back through a wormhole or some type of mechanism to either clean up what they screwed up or to get back what they lost. And when I say get back what they lost, I'm talking about human emotion, human faith, and our belief that there's something beyond our living life or, our human life or our physical life. And I don't think they have that. And I think they're jealous of that. And I think that's why people are abducted, so they can try to find that. I don't think there's really any reason other than that. I think they experiment and probe and look into humans and follow us because they're trying to get back what they lost at one previous time.
Wow. Yeah, that could go a few different ways. I've heard that theory. I've also heard a couple of different theories. I don't know which one I really roll with. It's so hard to say. I just think that the thing that rings my bell or just perks my ears is when I hear those who claim that they're in the know, which would be these military guys, Elizondos, the journalists who talk to people behind the scenes and got firsthand accounts, like the Coulthards, that this thing is somber, and it's been mentioned before, somber and then spiritual, both of those words in the same sentence, and I just don't know where that goes. And
I will tell you one thing. I have had several reptilian, in particular, abductees and experiencers who have told me through communication, these beings, that they do have a divine, I don't know, deity, like our God.
Mhm.
They do believe in something higher.
Okay.
And I'm just not talking about reptilians. I'm talking about all these species, that they do have a higher being, that they put a lot of faith, if you call it that, faith or respect into, like many people or many humans do with a God or an Allah or whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah.
They seem to have the same thing, but they don't have what they used to have. And I think that's something that they just were trying to find out, how they can go back into the human psyche and to capture what they used to believe in, what their ancestors used to believe in. Because I think we are the aliens. I think we're just, they are just an evolved rendition of us.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I feel like I've had I'm moving around on the thought process there, but the latest thought process I'm at with that is that I've thought that too, but I'm at there's so many planets with intelligent life. In thinking about that, then I would think about, okay, they're just visiting this one planet. No, likely they're visiting a lot of planets that have life. And so if that's the case, are they really focused on this breed of humanity more than maybe the humanity on this other planet over here? Then when you start thinking about that, I really think that what's going to happen at the end of this, I think they're way further advanced knowledge-wise than us. And I think we get that boost whenever we get to make that connection and we get to be brought up to that level knowledge-wise. But I think we're going to find out that even when we get to that level of knowledge, or as close as we can get, we're going to find out that they don't even know everything, all the secrets to the universe, which goes to them also having a higher power as well.
I think we got a long way to go. We're not going to get any answers real quick. I mean, our descendants are going to probably they're going to have to be the ones that pick it up, because I don't think we're going to get any answers.
Sure. But we fought the fight and we did what we had to do to move the needle in our time. So that's I'm grateful to be able to do that. Yep. And appreciate others that are doing the same thing. So with that being said, Lon, we've had an awesome conversation. I would love it. Well, everybody knows where to find you, but if you could go ahead and let everybody know where to go.
Well, the website is phantomsandmonsters.com. I do a daily blog on there. I try to report as much as I possibly can within reason. But I do a weekly show on Friday nights where I literally talk about the cases that are coming into me, my investigations, our team investigations, and other subjects of interest. Our team is the Phantoms and Monsters Fortean research team. We got about 20 boots on the ground investigators, another 35 to 40 affiliates, where we go all over North America looking at cases, try to get to the witnesses in case people need help. And I do a lot of other stuff too. So, and my books can all be found on Amazon. Just search Lon Strickler.
Well, awesome stuff, Lon. Like I said, happenstance, I had fill in for Dave Scott's Big Shoes and got the chance to speak to you for the first time. And
well, it was good speaking to you.
Yeah, it was totally awesome conversation. Glad we got to do this, and we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna think up some different path we can go down, like the path we were talking about earlier, and we'll talk more, Lon. So I appreciate you coming on in tonight.
You take care. You have a good night.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Lon Strickler, the man, phantomandmonsters.com. You know, we read that stuff on the weekends, and it always is we play the little theme music in the background, and those stories just go. You guys already know. So totally appreciate Lon for coming on in. Enjoyed having a conversation with him. Thanks, Dave Scott, man. Take the rest of the night off, man. Don't even worry about it, buddy. Don't even worry about it. We had a super duper conversation. So what I want to do now is go ahead and get ready to take another pause for the cause as we get ready to jump into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Not after hours, because this is Dave's show. Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back. See ya in a minute. Yes. We are back to Spaced Out Radio After Hours number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, filling in for the conductor of the Woo Train, Dave Scott. You know, normally I'm your weekend guy. I'm your after hours guy, and we usually do our thing on Saturday and Sunday, but it's a special day. We're here on a Monday, filling in some big shoes, like I said before, for Dave Scott. Now, with that being said, right, normally we get into hour 3 on a Monday. We would be getting some Steve Stockton, and then we would be going into the UFO report. Don't have Steve Stockton's audio, so unfortunately we won't be able to do that. And then the UFO report is not set up for me for hour 3. So you guys get to hang with me for a little bit. We're gonna actually go in because we only talked about one of the stories over there with Lon Strickler's phantomandmonsters.com. So I said, hey, why not make it a Lon Strickler show completely, and let's dive in to some of those tales, right? I told you these are unmatched tales. If you have not taken advantage of the resource, which is phantomandmonsters.com, I think you're sleeping. Definitely put it in the chat. Make sure you guys go over there. Lon has thousands of entries that have been submitted, and they're compelling, just like some of the ones that you're going to hear tonight. So we're going to go ahead and improvise on our hour 3, but still make it fun and exciting, right? Let's go ahead and get into some of these stories as could only be told in the voice of Mr. Rob G. So I'll try to put my dramatic tone to it if I can, inflection, all those great things, right? So first we need a little background music. Yeah, we got to set the mood as we get ready to get into some of these really creepy stories. I'm going to start out with, I had a few that I handpicked, and I want to go ahead and make sure I want to bring them up on the screen so you can see what it is that we are looking at here. We're going to share this screen. First story. Make sure everything is set up right. All right. So this is a creepy entity at a friend's farm. You see the date on this is Sunday, April 28th, which is yesterday. So this was just submitted. We're talking about fresh content. I'm going to go ahead and get into reading what was written on this particular story. So a woman writes about an encounter that she had with a real-life entity while at a friend's house. After looking at a photo of the friend's grandfather, she identified the ghost. Lon says he received this following account. Hello. Soon after my father passed away, I went to live with my friend and his mom for a little while. Things with my mom were very strained, and I didn't want to stay at my friend's house initially, but they didn't want me alone during that time. Staying at anyone's house always made me feel uneasy for some reason. My first night there, early in the morning, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door opening, and a gentleman wearing a red flannel and bib denim overalls came into my room holding a bag of tools. He turned the light on, looked at me, and walked through another doorway to the utility room. Soon after, I fell asleep again. But when I woke up this time, the room was dark. Everything was the same when I went to sleep the night previously. Figuring I had imagined the whole thing, I went upstairs for coffee and asked my friend's mom if the guy with the overalls was still here. With a weird look, she informed me that it's been her and I in the house all night. At this point, I'm very confused. So I explained in detail what the man looked like: height, weight, clothes, facial hair, everything. She turns pale white and bolts to her room and retrieves a photo. When she showed me the photo, it was the man I saw in the basement that morning, even wearing the same clothes. She tells me that he passed away 30 years ago. It was her grandpa who owned the property previously. He had unalived himself to save the farm when he invested his money into horses instead of machines, and his investment flopped. To keep the bank from taking the farm on a stormy night, he took a lightning rod into the middle of a pond, and nature took his life when lightning struck the rod. Because of this, life insurance paid out, and his self-inflicted unaliving saved the family dairy business and kept the house from being foreclosed on. Right? I could imagine, I could see that, I could visualize that story. So that's an awesome story. One of the many awesome stories that you're going to find over at phantomandmonsters.com. So guys, make sure you go and support Lon Strickler and read up on what it is that he has there. We're going to jump into another story that we have sitting here. This one, now I didn't read this one previously, but the title alone: U.S. Marine states Sasquatch ended war games exercise. Let's see what that's all about. Lon says a former U.S. Marine describes an incident that occurred during a war games exercise at Casey Springs, California. It seems that the exercise was canceled after the Sasquatch showed up. Lon says he received the following account. I currently live in Springfield, Massachusetts, and in May of 1973, I was a U.S. Marine. We did a battalion-sized exercise in an area of California known as Casey Springs. We were told that there were no roads to get there. We were inserted by helicopter. I was sent out on a midnight ambush with 15 other Marines. It was a computerized war game. It worked on the computer, and so they sent Marines out to see if it could be feasibly done. What we did was we were going on an aggressor force. We set up a linear-shaped ambush shaped like an L. And when your victims walk into it, it's a computer kill. Well, we set this ambush at midnight, and we had two individuals walk into our ambush. We opened fire with blanks, and as it turned out, we thought they were bears, so we scrambled, shooting our blanks at these individuals, and they separated. One went one way, the other went the other way. We got back to our PPB, which is our platoon-sized patrol base, and we told our lieutenant what happened. He radioed it to our commander. This was the first night of a 4-day war game, and it was canceled. We were given orders to light a large fire, get a fixed bayonet, and stand on the 360 around our blazing fire. All through that night, we heard high-pitched screams. The only way I can describe it, that of a death of a call of a bear. And in the morning, we had 2 helicopters come in with base game wardens and some other fellas. To this day, I don't know who they are. We were made to bring them back to the area where this happened. 2 of the individuals walked where we directed them, and we were ordered to leave the area. And this is something the Marine Corps does not do, to cancel a computerized war game. There were over 3,000 Marines involved in this. The logistics and the money that was spent on this, and it was canceled. Lon put a note here that I've written about the government military versus Bigfoot. I experienced it personally. It's obvious that the powers to be have made significant attempts to cover up the existence of this cryptid. You only have to wonder why. There are a variety of theories, and most are legitimate, including the UFO/alien connection line. Some of the stuff we talked about today, right? So you get some of that feeling out of that story and Lon's opinion on it, right? That's two back-to-back strong stories that have been submitted to, or encounters rather, really, that have been submitted to Lon Strickler. So awesome stuff there. We have another one that we picked out here. I don't know how deep this one goes, but the title was interesting, and it's UFO Encounter, Power Loss, Possible Abduction, and Disappearing Photos. A UFO appears in Playa del Rey, California in January 2017. The eyewitness, along with others, observes the event, takes photos, and then experiences a possible abduction. Lon says he received the following account. Hello, sir. It was dusk on January 23rd, 2017. I was at my house in Playa del Rey, California. My lights dimmed to orange, accompanied by an odd sound like the powering up of a large transformer. The opposite noise I expected to accompany lights dimming. The lights came back up suddenly, but went out altogether just a few seconds later. I went outside to check fuse box, to check the breakers, but only took 2 steps outside the house to notice a large craft directly above me, maybe only 100 feet up. It was obviously responsible for a power outage, as I could see other houses go black underneath it as it proceeded out towards the ocean. I was initially freaked out and ran to a local restaurant 2 blocks away. I didn't believe in UFOs until then. So I wanted a witness, and I grabbed the manager I know, Mario, who, while complaining about his customers with no power, was also being physically dragged outside by me. I pointed out a large UFO and said, "What the bleep is that?" He looked very alarmed and just stared. His hostess came out, and she looked like someone about to scream, which she then did, but pointed opposite the large craft. The hillside opposite the ocean had at least 7 small lights blinking in and out, hovering over and under the power lines and transformers that go up that hill. They were moving quickly, and I saw that entities were emerging partially from lights. I was the only one who ran closer. I ran up to the foot of the hill and began filming until I could tell no one saw me, and it landed behind me in my alley in an aggressive manner. I took off back to the restaurant and a hub of humanity. That one took off back to a large ship. I went to my neighbors, took a telescope, and shot photos using my iPhone. I have a view of a very large craft without light obstruction. As it was blinking, I caught one moment with no light emitting. I would have sent photos, but for some unknown reason, the images were no longer on my iPhone. I didn't remove them. They just disappeared. I even went to the phone store. There was nothing to retrieve. Unrelated? ? The next few days were odd, as I felt very much like someone was watching me and following me. A full week later, I fell asleep at 2 p.m. and did not wake until 8 a.m. I had 4 bruises on each bicep in the same pattern. Very odd. Nothing since, and have not had the same, have nothing since, and have not had the someone following out of the corner of my eye feeling since. Wow. You know, we talked to Jax Harmon yesterday about seeing the things out the corner of your eyes and what those could be and what those could mean. If you missed that, definitely jump into the archive, watch yesterday's show, Hour 3 with Jax Harmon. This is exactly what we spoke about. So pretty creepy. I'm just going to pick a bonus one. I had 3, but I'm going to pick a bonus one because there's so many awesome ones here to pick from. So let's see. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's pick this one. We talked about this with Lon earlier today, Red-Eyed Mothman. But this was in North Sanic, British Columbia. So I think maybe that's somewhere up by where Dave Scott is. He could let us know more on that. But this is a 10-foot tall red-eyed Mothman encountered in North Sanic, British Columbia. A North Sanic, British Columbia man was sitting in his truck that was parked in his driveway. He sees something standing nearby. The winged humanoid rose up, standing 10 feet in height. Lon said he received the following account. Okay, this is a short one. So, hi, I had an encounter with what I now believe to be Mothman. In January 2022, in North Sanic, British Columbia, I was sitting in my truck on my driveway, having a cigarette and listening to music. It was late, so it was dark out with minimal moonlight. It has always been my routine to walk out to my truck in the evening, have a beer and some smokes, and play music. Recently, for a week or so before the encounter, I had suddenly become very afraid of the dark. Like something was out there watching me. I jogged to safety of my truck that day. So I was sitting there still feeling afraid, and I looked out the window to see something that looked like a deer on my driveway. Then it turned to look right at me, and I saw 2 large glowing red eyes. It was obviously crouching at first, because when it stood up, it was around 10 feet tall, winged and humanoid, with the appearance of small horns or something on its head. It stared right at me, and I felt paralyzed. Overwhelming fear came over me, and I couldn't look away from its eyes. We stared at each other for about 5 minutes. It barely moved, but it started shuffling at the end, and I quickly looked away to find the lock on my door. I looked back, and it had completely vanished. Obviously must have flown off while I was distracted. I looked everywhere but up. The feeling of fear at night lasted for another week or 2. Then it was gone, and everything seemed normal again. I've had no idea what this thing might be. I only recently heard of descriptions of Mothman, so I figured I'd contact you. Right? Lon. So they contact Lon, and Lon has curated all this stuff. If I could just show you the list. It was broken down by the month, year, and we're going back years. Let me grab one more out the Lon vault. Random. I want to make it a good one, not a short one here. Find a longer one here. Find a good one. Let's see. All right, let's go with this one here. This is a sad-eyed cryptid described by Virginia witness. So a Virginia teen reports seeing an unknown quadruped in the neighborhood where she once lived. She has become obsessed with finding out what this creature is. Lon says the following account was forwarded to me. This all happened about 4 years ago when I lived in King and Queen County, Virginia, and living in a small neighborhood with a cul-de-sac. I'd only lived there for maybe a year, and things were always a little off. From me almost getting kidnapped in my own yard by an old man running at me with a stick after chasing a squirrel near his yard, things weren't the safest. One night, 10-11 at night, I needed water and went to the kitchen. Our kitchen was at the back of the house and connected to the back porch that had a really big deck on it. Over 20 people and good quality grill could easily fit on it with no problem. There was one big window above the sink with the super thin curtains that was always open because we didn't have AC back then. So I had gotten my bottle of water, and while taking a sip, I felt like somebody was staring at me. I closed the fridge door and turned my whole body to look straight at the window and saw the thing. It was just staring at me with those sad-looking eyes. The whole thing in general was so messed up looking, I really don't know how to describe it. Now, I was frozen for a second, but for some reason, I walked exactly 2 steps closer to the window. I guess because I just didn't understand what I was looking at, and the thing took off. I ran to the window and watched the thing run on all fours and jump over the neighbor's fence, causing their German shepherds to start going off. So I knew it wasn't just my imagination. I became obsessed with it and drew it and showed my friends and even told and showed my dad. But they all laughed it off like some joke. It's not a joke. I saw it frequently after that. It would show up at my school, house, woods, everything. And there were a higher number of dead animals around that time too. After a few months, it slowly started not appearing as much and completely stopped 2 to 3 months before I moved from that area. I generally forgot about the whole thing until my boyfriend and I were talking about cryptids, and I told them about what I saw. Now that I remember, I'm obsessed again and need help with what that thing was and if someone else has seen anything similar. I think I'm going crazy. No matter how many times I look up what it looked like or do, I look it up, what it looked like, or do deep dives on cryptid, nothing comes up, and I'm starting to think maybe everyone was right and it was just my imagination. But I know what I saw, and someone has to know what I'm talking about, so please help me. Yeah, pretty compelling story right there, right? Because the problem ends up being, and that's why I'm glad I got receipts for my thing, because if it was just something I had to explain and I had to, it couldn't validate it unless I found someone else that saw the same thing. That's got to be a tough spot to be in, you know what I mean? So wouldn't want to be in that spot. But nonetheless, awesome story from Lon Strickler's phantommonsters.com, guys. Please make sure you guys go over there and check Lon out and show him some love, as he has entertained us tonight with his presence, and then in hour 3 for the first half, entertained us with the stories that he curates on his website. So awesome stuff. We're going to go ahead, and we got less than a half hour to end this show. So we're going to jump into a little bit of something unexpected. Well, expected, but unexpected. We'll just say that. I think if Deb from Sac is out there, which she is, Deb from Sacramento took the time to put together a little package for you guys. And I want to make sure that we go ahead and address that. So we will do that. Let me find the perfect thing we can do here. Let's switch it up a little bit. I think this is what we used last time. Since we're in Dave's show, right? This is not the after hours, so I don't have all the stuff that I need here. But this will do. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do it like this, right? This is a Monday. Normally, if this was a Sunday at the after hours, we might end the weekend off like this so you could get into your work week and just have an epic work week. You're still going to do that anyway. But we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the trivia that Ed from Sacramento has sent in. I haven't even seen the answers to questions to this, so I don't know what to expect. We're going to go ahead and get into some of this. Let me make sure we have no issues with people thinking cheating is going on or somebody XYZ. So give me a second while I get where I need to go. And actually, while I do that, why don't we check out the SOR commercials while I get this ready? Because we don't have ugly swag, guys. I want you guys to go ahead and check it out. Make sure you go to spacedoutradio.com/shop to pick up anything that you're about to see right now. Let's go. Let's run.
Hey, everyone. Guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today and make yourself look good. If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual SOR Fan Party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldine Orozco, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the SOR Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024.
That's right. Make sure you join us. As you see on the screen, we are doing the live broadcast for the Spaced Out Radio Fan Party on May 10th. That's going to happen from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. And that'll be myself, Jessica Jones, Dave Scott doing a live show. So if you can't be there in Reno, that's okay. That's okay. Just make sure that you hit that notification bell and that you're here for the live show, because at 3 o'clock, obviously, that's early in the day. We don't normally run shows here that early, but it's going to be jam-packed. We have a lot of spectacular guests, as you can see here. Dave Scott, Science Bob Merle, myself, Linda Leslie, Dr. Michael P. Masters, R. Keith Andrews, Jessica Jones, Lala Bright, Jim Goodall, Dirty Phil, Tim Senor, Lorian Fenton, Kira, Grant Baker, Geraldine Orozco, and if you can believe it, even more, right? Action pack lineup, even more. We're definitely doing the 3-hour live show, and I don't know what else we're doing broadcast wise after that. We may do something, I don't know. But the one thing I would love to do is, for those who can't be there, who are at home, we would love to include you in the broadcast, right? So if you are up to it, you know what I mean, during the live show, we would love to bring you up maybe on camera so you can kind of vicariously celebrate and enjoy the fan party as if you were there, right? That's what I want to do. Hopefully we can do that. But definitely want to make sure that you guys at least are watching if you're not able to be present. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the trivia that Deb sent. So get your fingers ready. I don't even know the answers or questions to these. We're going to be flying by the seat of our pants here, and we're going to see who gets what. Obviously, Deb knows all the answers, so she knows she can't participate, but I'm sure she'll enjoy just kicking back, watching or listening. We know who kicked butt last time. Maggie M10 destroyed everyone. So let's see what happens this time. So, okay. So these are going to be, okay. So she sent in, she wants me to let everybody know that tonight's trivia is going to be about Broadway and TV musicals. Joking though. That was a joke. She wanted me to do that to you guys, so she wanted me to start off Broadway musicals, but it's a joke. It's not about that. It's going to be about the things that we know here in this space, mythology, cryptids, UFOs, things of that nature. So, first question was, what is the name for the study of extraterrestrial life? What is the name for the study of extraterrestrial life? Let me go ahead and move this chat over. Come on now. I see this one might be a tough one. But once again, if you win, great, right? But it's really about soaking in the knowledge. So just remember what the correct answer is and add that to your mental database. It's all about learning terms and history of this field that we sit here and talk about every day. All right, so I don't see the correct answer, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. The name for the study of extraterrestrial life is astrobiology, you guys. So make sure you put that right in that mental database and become richer with knowledge. All right, we're going to get into question number 2. Which planet in our solar system is the best candidate for microbial life? We only got 8, right? Since they dropped Pluto, we only got 8. But if you count Nibiru, Planet X, we got 9. Just depends on how you feel. So going to the YouTube chat says that Lex Diaz is actually the first one to answer that correct. So it is Mars. The answer is Mars. So way to go, Lex Diaz. Way to jump out ahead and show them what it's all about, right? We're learning today. We're soaking in knowledge. Soaking in knowledge for the last 18 minutes of the show. Right, third question here. This must be a trick question, Devin Sack. I see the answer, but this could go some. I'll take actually both answers to this. So, what is the main goal of SETI? I'll take the real answer and the real answer. There's more than one answer to this. What is the main goal of SETI? Come on. The main goal of SETI. Come on. Okay. I'll give it to Lex Diaz again. I'll give it to Lex Diaz. It is the search for extraterrestrial signals and life, obviously. Or you could have simply answered it and said that the main goal of SETI is to deflect us and make us think that we need to listen out there when we should be listening right here. That could have been the correct answer too. So I would have accepted either one of those, but signal is what was written down. We all have our different opinions about SETI, and I think it's a bunch of money being spent to do nothing, if you ask me. IMO, okay? So good job, Lex Diaz. That's how you keep it going. but it is signal, so we could definitely do that. And getting down the list here. Okay, I can't even pronounce this, Dad. What is the name of the mission that uncovered Enceladus? Hopefully I said that right. Enciladus. What is the name of the mission that uncovered Enceladus? Hopefully I said that right, but I still don't see the right answer, so I guess it don't matter. Encilad is in David, US. Don't see the right one. I'll go ahead and give you a few seconds on that here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the answer is the Cassini mission. Cassini mission. So go ahead and put that in your mental database. Next time, you never know. Somebody could ask you that at the store. Say, hey, what was the name of the mission that uncovered Enceladus? You can be like, Cassini mission. Boom, right on the spot. Awesome stuff. Let's keep moving. Let's see. Which math problem is used to calculate advanced civilizations in our galaxy? What math problem is used to calculate advanced civilizations in our galaxy? Okay, Lex Diaz. Puck Elf almost had it. Drake. That you be talking about the Canadian Drake. I don't know, Puck Elf. I would love to do that, but it's Drake equation. Not to be confused with Canadian Drake. All right, Lex Diaz is running away with this thing. Lex Diaz is running away with the show tonight. Okay, let's see. Next question. Which harsh environment on Earth has been used as a model for other life in the universe? Which harsh environment on Earth has been used as a model for other life in the universe? So they saw life could survive in this particular place. So they know that based on that life must exist in all other dynamic climates. Yes, I see the right answer. You're catching the drift. And it's hydrothermal, but we'll go with thermal vents to Mothman. That's yeah, I like that. That's close enough. Right? Somebody's getting educated up in here. I think everybody is, which is awesome, man. Pass the knowledge on too. Philip Blair said Dave's gifting site. Yeah, not there. All right. So great job. Moving on. We've got about 12 minutes left. About 10 actually before we wrap the show up. So let's see, what do we got here? Which spacecraft landed on Titan and delivered information of possible life there? Which spacecraft landed on Titan and delivered information of possible life there? You got to go deep into your NASA hats for these ones. Jump in your NASA bag real quick, and you might get this answer. Yeah, this one is definitely nuts and bolts. I guess that's another clue. If you don't get it, don't worry about it, because I'll tell you what it is, and we'll move down the line here. We'll give it 5 seconds. We'll give it 4. We'll give it 3. We'll give it 2. We'll give it 1, and that's it. It's Huygens. 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 And I'm just going to. I know Deb looked into this. I know that I'm going to trust her. That's the right answer on that. Next question. Name a region around a star thought to provide environment for liquid water for life to exist. Name a region around a star thought to provide the environment for liquid water, which would support life and allow life to exist in any solar system. Yeah, you got it. Huck Elf. It is the Goldilocks zone. Philip got it. Let me go back. Philip got what? Let me go back because make sure I didn't miss Philip. Give me 1 second here. Yeah. Okay, sure did. Yep, Philip Blair. Let me go back. Let me tag Philip on this one. Give me just a second. Philip. Yes, you did say Huygens. So where's Philip at? The chat is moving so fast. And I'm monitoring 2 chats. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. I don't see. All right, I'm just going to tag you here, Philip. Give me just a second, Philip Blair. I'll just do that. Okay, that works. All right, moving on. Moving on. Okay, we got the Goldilocks zone, right? Now I got to. Okay, Puck Elf got that. Let me make sure Puck Elf is locked in for that. Yes, you are. All right. Next question. What kind of beings have attracted the most attention in astrobiology because of their ability to survive in harsh conditions? What kind of beings have attracted the most attention in astrobiology because of their ability to survive in harsh conditions? They're the tiniest of the tiny. That's what I'll say. I'll give you a hint. The tiniest of the tiny. Yeah, you guys are going pretty tiny, but this is not the answer. I'll give it to you here. You guys are getting very tiny there. Yeah, I see that. All right. It's going to be microbes, guys. Microbes. All right. Moving on to some movie trivia. We got about time for maybe 2 or 3 of these before we tally the winner and wrap the show. So let's get it in if you're going to do it. Let's see. How many sequels are there to the Terminator movie? According to Deb from SAC, how many sequels are there to the Terminator movie? I don't even know this because I only watched like the first 2. And I didn't like the rest of them. I think Puck Elf got the first one. It's 6 total. 6 total films. Good job, Puck Elf. Next question. Now, I would not know this one. I'm interested to see who does. How many seasons are there for True Blood on Showtime? I didn't watch a single season. So I couldn't even tell you. I'll tell you one because that's all I know it exists. Ooh, there's some true blood people in this chat. Hold on. Wait a minute. That was quick, Castle Dude. Oh. So your true feelings come out, Castle Dude. So we know you're a True Blood fan. Check. Listen, okay, we just mark down anything else about Castle Dude. We know he's a True Blood fan. Check. Got it. All right. Let's see. Silence of the Lambs. What was Hannibal Lecter's trademark with his killings? What would Hannibal Lecter? What was his trademark in all of his killings? What would he do? What was his trademark? You could say the PG version, the politically correct YouTube version, either one. Okay, there we go. I'll take that, Paramar. Eating the victim with some fava. We say some fava beans and a nice chianti. Something like that is what he said. Eating the victim. We'll take that, Paramar. And let's do this last one here, right? Because time is short. So let me pick a good one. This is okay. This is right up my alley. I know this one. What was in the Saw movie, which is my favorite franchise of all time, horror, one of mine, what was the killer's name? In the Saw movie franchise, what was the killer's name? Goes down in the history of killers, and you see the mask right there. Because I am that big of a fan, please tell me you know who that is right there. Yes, none other than Jigsaw. Super Jigsaw fan. I went to the Saw escape room in Las Vegas. Oh my God, epic, dude. Let me tell you, that's the end. I'm about to tally up. But the escape room for Saw in Las Vegas, if you're ever there, make sure you go do that. Every room they put you in is an identical match for a scene in the movie. So the Saw one where the two dudes were chained in the room, you're in that room. The one where you had to reach into the machine and it would chop your hands up, I was in that room. And you have to, they have the actor that comes in there and you kind of play the whole thing. It was so awesome. And that's where I picked that up as a souvenir because I had to do it. But awesome. So I'm glad that was the last question. Let me tally up the vote, the correct answers here, and we can wrap it up. All right, so we got Jennifer. Jennifer had 1, 2. All right. We got Lex Diaz with 1, 2, 3. Okay. We got Mothman with 1. We got Philip Blair with 1. We got Puck Elf with 1, 2. We got Calcidu with 1. And we got Paramar with 1. Which means the winner is, again, Lex Diaz. Not back to back, but I know you just won recently sometime. So congratulations, Lex Diaz, staying on top of the game. Thanks, Dad from Sacramento, for putting that list together and sending it in. Always fun, always good to fill some time, right? You know, we had to improvise our hour 3 here because we didn't have the UFO report. We didn't have Steve Stockton among the missing, but we made it work and we still had an awesome show. Lon Strickler was awesome, great to talk to. I'm glad I got to do that. I want to go ahead and thank the super chatters who supported us tonight. W. Decker, early. Appreciate you, W. Decker. T-Bone, thank you for your support of Spaced Out Radio. Dev from SAC, appreciate you. Thanks for your support. T-Bone again, thank you so much. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your support. And T-Bone again. Wow. Appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio. Dev from SAC, thank you so much for your support of Spaced Out Radio. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. Like I said, big shoes to fill tonight for Dave Scott. He will be back tomorrow. I haven't heard anything otherwise, so I'm expecting Dave Scott back in the driver's seat tomorrow, and want to definitely do that. Also, we're trying out some new things visually. You know, we're trying thumbnails, things like that. We tried a new thumbnail tonight. Let us know in the comments in the chat. Hit ones if you like the new thumbnails versus the old ones for the weekday show for the Monday through Friday. Let us know. Ones if you like it. Twos if not so much. You want to keep the old ones because we're trying to up our game here. Thumbnails is a very important part of our presentation, and we need to know if we're moving in the right direction. So please let us know. Outside of that, definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in. Fantastic time as always. Hey, and about this, if you haven't come by on the weekends, I'm missing people on the weekends, so come see us Saturday and Sunday on After Hours. It goes down. We have a great time. It's fun things going on. Everybody here can vouch who is normally there. Love to see you there, and make sure you hit that notification bell. Hit the subscribe. Make sure you come on through. I would love to see you. Outside of that, to all our viewers and listeners across the globe, thanks for tuning your frequency once again to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what is that, you ask? Guys, we own the night. Thanks for coming on in. I will see you guys on Saturday. You guys all take care. Have a great rest of your week. Later.
Healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.